Welcome back to the John Fredericks Radio Show. This is Mike Rubino guest hosting. We are joined by Virginia's favorite governor, Governor George Allen. Governor, thank you so much for joining me this morning.
Well, it's great to be with you, Mike, and it's a good morning. We're down in Virginia Beach where there's a skiff of snow, and you would think it's,
Well, you're up in Vermont. You're in Bernie Sanders country.
There you go. Yeah, no, I sure hope not. There's enough Bloomberging of Virginia, so we don't need those anti-competitive, harmful policies imposed on freedom-loving Virginians.
Well, let's talk about the Bloombergering of Virginia, because you and I had, when we did our little pre-interview, we discussed this. I think that this is a talking point that has not really gotten out there, and Virginia votes soon. Mayor Bloomberg has spent a astronomical sum of money across Virginia. I think $4 million in the Arlington Commonwealth Attorney's race just to get this person elected. What do you think this translates to on primary day here in Virginia? Handicap the presidential race for us as you see it.
Okay, as far as the Arlington and Fairfax County Commonwealth Attorney's races, there may have been some of Bloomberg, but it's also George Soros. These criminal apologists in those cases look at the victims as the people who are in jail rather than the people who've been assaulted, robbed, or raped. And so you're seeing that effect. That's a New Yorking or Bloomberging. I
like both of them.
Yeah,
they both work.
Yeah, you see New York City policies. It's catch and release, and criminals continue to commit crimes. And so you're seeing some of that effect in Virginia. And the amount of money in some of these races in Virginia, by the way, even here in Virginia Beach, Jen Kiggins, Bill DeSteff, both state senators who won, but they're 90% of the money that came in for their opponents was from California or New York. And so you have the Democrats in control of the legislature, and so many of them are beholden to the hundreds of thousands of dollars that Mayor Bloomberg put into their campaigns to then impose on Virginia this Green New Deal that'll be very harmful for working families and businesses by raising electricity and fuel and food costs and making our state less competitive, and all the big union boss efforts that they're doing as well. As far as the presidential race, watching that
what a debate, huh?
It was feisty. It was entertaining. I think the ones who I think Mayor Bloomberg did not have a good night.
No, I'd say he had the opposite of a good night.
yeah. It was a good thing. It was a good thing he had his ads running during it, because that was the only thing somewhat positive that was out of him. I think Senator Klobuchar did okay. I think she was helped by it.
Her spat though with Mayor Pete was bizarre. It's deeply personal, almost vitriolic.
Yeah. Well. The other one who may have catapulted some on it is Warren, in that her cross-examination of Mayor Bloomberg fired up a lot of folks, and it's hard to say. I think he was clearly hurt the worst. This whole thing for in Virginia and Super Tuesday, Mayor Bloomberg again has a lot of politicians who he's contributed to, so we'll see if people care more about their donations and principles. I think Joe Biden has to win South Carolina.
It's the firewall of all firewalls, and I think the fire is starting to come over the wall, unfortunately, for the former vice president.
Well, it's hard to say. It's hard. I mean, that'll be the telling point. South Carolina really is key for not just the Democrats, for Republicans. I remember back in 2008, Fred Thompson, I was national co-chair for Fred Thompson.
Right.
And when we didn't win South Carolina, that is just crucial for Republicans, and maybe not as crucial for Democrats, but it is for Joe Biden. If he doesn't win South Carolina, I think he's got to fold the tent. So once you get to Virginia, who knows what will happen in Nevada. Maybe Bernie Sanders will win there. The Democrats, generally speaking, you have about a third or more of the Democrat base are the socialistic Democrats.
Right.
And that's being split between Senator Sanders and Senator Warren, although, they say, oh, gosh, they're more moderate, all of them are for, it's almost hysterically for this Green New Deal scheme that if anybody understood what in the heck that is, sounds nice, I suppose, but what it does is...
But so does Medicare for All, right? They're just very good at coining phrases.
Yeah, they're great phrases. How do you pay for it? And so all of them are so far to the left, the ones that are remaining, or at least taking positions to the left, that's why someone like Klobuchar and Vice President Biden may not look as far out, or the same with Mayor Pete. Mm-hmm. And then Mayor Bloomberg's got all these far left. There's just extreme positions on taking away the natural right of people to defend themselves embodied in the Second Amendment, and then he's been pushing hysterically all this Green New Deal.
Yeah, his energy policies are so out of step,
exactly.
Especially in Virginia. And
well, for any mining state, mining, it's just...
Well, what I find interesting...
And then he's so arrogant and so condescending. You've seen the interviews about farmers, just put a seed put water on it, and you got corn, and then condescending and, again, arrogant towards manufacturing workers. When my goodness, we love things made in the United States of America by American working men and women, and here he's making these kind of comments. And in fact, those kind of comments are so harmful for the number one concern, by the way, for manufacturers who have hundreds of thousands of jobs open right now is reskilling, retraining, trying to get more young people interested in the trades and skills, and the biggest concern is finding capable workers. In fact, the best thing that's happening in Virginia right now is there are a lot of good ideas to try to make sure you take away the stigma of young people in apprenticeships and vocational schools. And so then when you have, and I commend the governor and the bipartisan unity for that, mm-hmm. And see the need of that with the NAM's quarterly outlook survey saying, that's their biggest concern of manufacturers is the inability to find capable workers. Then you have a Mayor Bloomberg demeaning and just in such derogatory terms talking about people who are in manufacturing. All they got to do is follow an arrow. No, modern manufacturing takes a lot of skills, it takes a lot of knowledge, and it takes a lot of really valuable effort on the part of the men and women in manufacturing for us to have the highest quality, best products. And for him to be criticizing farmers, manufacturing workers in that way really is so harmful to what everyone's trying to do in every state, not just Virginia, but across this country. And I think that arrogance, that condescending, elitist point of view is just beyond being aggravating.
I think Trump
harmful.
Voters should take extreme umbrage to it. I mean,
I agree.
And that's, the core constituency of the president is the exact people that Mayor Bloomberg's insulting. We are still joined by Virginia's favorite governor, Governor George Allen. Governor, thank you so much for staying on. We're having quite the morning here.
Yeah, it's quite the morning. I was thinking as you were talking about what is going on in Virginia, and there's really only a few weeks left in the General Assembly session. They've done a lot of harm to Virginia's reputation, and in some respects were thwarted, but others are going forward. I've always said there's a very simple test I'd always have when I was governor or a senator, and that would be, does this bill or does this initiative help or hinder Virginia or America's competitiveness for more investment, for more jobs, for more opportunities? And one of the worst things, Mike, that they got through but fortunately finally killed was the repeal of our right-to-work law. Mm-hmm. And that's it for your listeners. The right-to-work law is a matter of personal liberty. It's very simple, and it says that a man or woman who's working shall not be compelled to pay union dues as a condition of holding and keeping that job. Being the furthest state north on the eastern seaboard with that right-to-work law gives us such a great competitive advantage. When I was recruiting businesses to Virginia, that was the first thing out of my mouth, that we're the furthest state north on the eastern seaboard with a right-to-work law. In fact, even Michigan has passed a right-to-work law because they were sick of having their behind handed to them with auto manufacturing jobs going to Tennessee and Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, and South Carolina. And so that did get through the House, and then it was defeated, fortunately, in the Senate. But if I were the governor of Tennessee or the Carolinas competing with Virginia, I'd say to the site selection people that you can't count on Virginia. People making these site selection decisions want to have stability, credibility, predictability, certainty that these laws will be in. And if you're not a right-to-work law state, you're not even on the field of competition to lose. The other things they're doing, this Green New Deal, is they're putting Virginia into this energy tax scheme with northeastern states. It's going to increase unnecessarily by at least $25, maybe more, a month, everyone's electricity bills. Now, they call it progressive, it's regressive. The people who are hurt the worst by this, Mike, are lower middle income working families who adding $25, $50 a month to their power bill really hurts them. It's not the Mike Bloombergs of the world who fly to Paris or Cancun in a private jet for some UN climate conference. And so that's very harmful to our manufacturing and our business competitiveness. They also need to stop another idea that is just so contrary to representative democracy, and that is to cede Virginia's votes to big metropolitan areas. They wanted Virginia could vote for candidate A, but if candidate B got more votes because he or she did really great in New York City, Chicago, LA, San Francisco, Philadelphia, and so forth, Virginia's electoral votes would go to someone who did not win the vote in Virginia.
Right.
To me, that is so contrary to the concept of representative democracy to do that. And then on the positive side, what they need to do, and you had an ad on it, I'm glad they're advertising on this station with informed listeners, is to pass the redistricting reform. Instead of having these districts in Virginia that looks like someone flung spaghetti up on the map, we need to take away the partisanship in redistricting so that, as I said in that ad, that the people choose their politicians rather than politicians picking their voters. And that is reform that has to pass now before the next redistricting of the legislature and Congress starts up next year.
Well, we have 2 more minutes left, but I want to actually dive into this redistricting reform. I wasn't even thinking about it, but what I'm really worried about is the hypocrisy on the left. So this is deeply troubling.
That word hypocrisy, hey Mike, when you watch, and I'll say this for both sides, that is a word that applies to so much. But go ahead.
Well, the hypocrisy, the Democrats are all for redistricting reform when they're in the minority. Yep. Now they're in the majority, and they want to pass toothless reform. Well, toothless reform isn't reform. So, I mean, the sheer hypocrisy of Delegate Price's bill, which is essentially what One Virginia is pushing, except it's not at all, is astounding to me, and Virginians should be upset about this. Virginians were sold a bill of goods, which I think everyone on the whole wanted, right? We want comprehensive redistricting reform, which puts the power in the hands of the people. The legislators want control of it. They do not want to cede control to the people that duly elect them, and that's concerning to me, and it should be concerning to every Virginian.
I agree with you, Mike, and I think that the measure that passed last year is a good compromise. It's bipartisan as far as legislators who are on it, but then it's also half of the commission are citizens in it, and so whatever map is drawn with the way this is designed, we'll need to get at least some Republican, at least some Democrat, at least some citizen, nonpartisan involved in it, and it has to be. So you're going to have the legislature involved, but they're not the only ones. It's not just politicians in the majority party drawing up these districts. And what we've seen in Virginia is an embarrassment. Our districts that are drawn in Virginia were by a federal judge who gets a professor from UC Irvine to draw districts in Virginia. That should be embarrassing. Now, the key is for people, Mike, and this is what's great about this show and its reach and its listeners, is that people need to know what's going on. I trust free people to make the right decisions if they have the evidence, the information, as what can be done to improve Virginia and what needs to. You got to play tenacious defense against bad ideas. So this is all in the House of Delegates right now. They passed the Senate, and they need to pass that amendment, because if that constitutional amendment is not passed and sent to the voters this fall, it's lost for the whole decade.
Exactly. And to put a capstone on this, Governor, everything you say is absolutely correct on this. 72% of voters support the amendment based on Mason-Dixon polling. 70% of Virginians support it based on the Wason Center. So everyone likes it, right? Go out.
And Mike, here's another key. The other key is it's not just hypocrisy. How about keep your word? All these folks are running on this, saying that they were for it. So keep your promises that you made to the people of Virginia in your district.
Unbelievable hypocrisy. Unbelievable. Governor, it is always a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you so much for joining me as I guest host the John Fredericks Radio Show.